I think I'm going to get this organized in a different way. Voila, now it's better. Good morning. It's a real honor and a big, big pleasure to be here again with you in Edinburgh at this 4th edition of the European Chatbots and Conversational AI Summit. I'm Hilde Hardeman. I work for the European Commission, where I lead the Publications Office of the European Union. Our mission at the Publications Office is to inform the public about what the EU does and means, and to help unlock the power of data. So at the core of our mandate is to authenticate and publish EU law to give it legal effect, very much like the publishers of official gazettes across the globe. We have been doing so for over 6 decades, not me, but other people, and we continue publishing the official journal of the European Union every day as the final step in the EU decision-making process. Without us, no law, no AI Act either. So while giving the law legal effect is the core of our core business, over the past years, our mission has increasingly developed into 2 interrelated strands. Firstly, that of a center of excellence for data, information, and knowledge management that serves all EU institutions, from the European Parliament to the European Central Bank. And secondly, that of a reliable source of data, information, and knowledge that people can trust on how the EU works for them. And in the times of misinformation, disinformation in which we find ourselves, this is, of course, even more important than before. I'm going to take a look behind me at the slides. I think you can move on. Whoever is managing the slides, if it's nobody that... Yes, you can stay here. Thank you. Now, clearly, with such a mandate, ethical and human-centric AI are of crucial importance to our work. AI is and remains a game-changer for us, an enabler that helps us to deliver better, more impactful services to our citizens, the economy, our society. And in all of that, trustworthiness is our most valuable asset by far. So an ethical, trustworthy approach to AI is absolutely essential for us. That's true for the EU Publications Office, and it's true for the EU as a whole. The European Union is founded on the values of respect for human dignity, freedom, democracy, equality, the rule of law, and respect for human rights. EU member states have created the Union democratically to promote peace through cooperation, to advance the values on which the Union is founded, and to foster well-being. Those values and objectives remain at the heart of what the EU is about, historically, for more than 70 years, today, and for the future. Now, the European Union wants citizens and businesses and everybody to make the most of all benefits AI can bring, because AI does bring many benefits. And at the same time, the EU has to ensure that AI systems are developed, deployed, used, and monitored in full respect of EU values, that is, in an ethical, trustworthy approach. Now, since we gathered here for the 3rd European Chatbot and Conversational AI Summit exactly a year ago, the world looks a different place, not only geopolitically, also when it comes to AI. AI is transforming, really transforming, every day more our societies, industries, our future. And the EU and the European Commission are strongly committed to harnessing the transformative power of AI in a responsible way for the common good. That is what we believe in. And that's why the EU is working to help create an ecosystem where ethical, trustworthy AI powers both economic growth and human progress and well-being. So how do we translate the concept of trustworthy AI into practice? How do we apply trustworthiness to concrete AI systems? And that's the slide that shows. the different aspects of this. An independent expert group set up by the European Commission to reflect on this in 2019 concluded that an ethical, trustworthy, human-centered approach to AI needs to respect at least 7 fundamental principles. I spoke about this when I was here last year, but I want to briefly come back to this because these 7 principles remain at the basis of the EU's work. These 7 principles are: first, human agency and oversight. The human always has to be in control. Second, technical robustness and safety. We also don't make a car without a brake, do we? Third, privacy and good data governance. Fourth, transparency. Fifth, diversity, non-discrimination and fairness. Sixth, societal and environmental well-being, and that includes also the environmental footprint of the systems at stake. And finally, and ultimately, accountability and liability with clear mechanisms for redress. These are the 7 basic principles that trustworthy AI, as a minimum, needs to correspond to. There is further reflection that has come to add principles on top of that. That's fine, that's very good, but those 7 are really the basis of the basis. Now, please, technicians, if you can give me the next slide. Now we have to translate these principles into rules that can be enforced. That is why in 2021, the European Commission proposed to put in place a comprehensive legal framework for artificial intelligence. The Minister and Christophe have already referred to it, the so-called AI Act, an EU regulation that is to directly apply in the EU as a whole to everyone and everything. The European Parliament and the Council, who are the co-negotiators for EU legislation, reached provisional agreement on the proposed act last December. And that is really a very significant milestone in the EU's efforts to ensure that AI is developed, deployed, and used in a way that respects EU values and promotes the well-being of citizens. And you will have the privilege to hear tomorrow from Mr. Dragos Tudorache, member of the European Parliament and the co-rapporteur for the AI Act, on how he sees the situation. Now, what does the AI Act seek to achieve? First of all, the AI Act sets out a vision for a human-centric approach to AI, which prioritizes transparency, explainability, and accountability. Christophe, you were speaking about the waitress in the bar. In fact, we should be able to explain to the waitress in the bar what are the basic, how AI works in principle. If we are not able to do that, then something is wrong. We cannot be human beings that invent those unbelievably complex systems and that would not at the same time be able to explain. Just like if we're not engineers, we don't fully understand how a car, let alone a plane, functions. But we still understand a number of basic principles, and we are not afraid to get in a car or in a plane. Because we know that there are frameworks around it, that it's reliable technology, and so on. That's what we want to achieve for AI. So this AI Act puts in place a framework for the ethical development and use of AI, and it supplies a roadmap for the development of AI technologies that are trustworthy, robust, and respectful of human rights. The Act classifies AI systems based on risks, and it assigns different levels of regulation based on the potential impact of the AI system concerned. The Act prohibits high-risk AI systems that are considered to pose unacceptable risks. For instance, the level of face recognition that is used, as we know in China, everywhere, that would be forbidden in the EU under the AI Act. One of the other key aspects of the AI Act is that it requires AI systems to be designed with privacy and security in mind. The principles of privacy by design and security by design need to be respected from the start when you start developing or building a system, not as a sort of plug-on at the end, because then it's no longer possible to do it properly. And systems, once they are there, need to be regularly tested and evaluated to ensure that they are free from bias and errors. I'm well aware that the comparison is not fully correct, but just like you go with your car to the technical control every so many times, also an AI system needs to be looked at and evaluated regularly. Then the AI Act also sets out a framework for a new type of liability, because under our standard legal systems, a machine cannot just like that be responsible. So we have to design a new way of liability to ensure accountability for the actions of AI systems with penalties for non-compliance. Further, the Act establishes a European AI office inside the European Commission, and that AI office is to be responsible for providing technical and ethical guidance on AI and for monitoring the development and use of AI in the EU. We heard the minister just speak about the database or the overview that one is making in Scotland of AI systems. The office will set up an EU-wide database of AI systems to help ensure transparency and accountability. And in addition to these key aspects, the Act also includes provisions for the development of AI skills and education. That's very, very important, and to promote AI research and innovation. Now, I said to you that in December, the European Parliament and the Council reached provisional agreement. That is, they reached agreement between the small group of members of Parliament and representatives of the Council of the Member States who negotiated the Act. Now, the Act needs still formal approval by the European Parliament and the Council with a vote in the European Parliament's plenary, so by all the European Parliament's members. And once that formal agreement is there, and we have every reason to expect that this formal agreement will follow soon, then the Act needs to be published in the official journal of the EU. So it will come to us for publication, for authentication, so that it can enter into force. And then measures will progressively become applicable over a period of 2 years, because people, organizations, companies need to have the time to adapt and get ready to implement all of that. It's clear that the AI Act will have an impact on all those who develop, deploy, and use chatbots in different ways. Just a few examples. If we look at the risk-based classification, while many chatbots can be expected to fall under lower risk categories, for instance, I think of a chatbot that was very nicely presented to us last year that assigns reservations in a restaurant. I would think that that will probably fall under the low risk category. But those used for critical functions, for instance, in the medical field or for human resources management, those can be expected to be more heavily regulated. When it comes to transparency, chatbots will have to clearly disclose that they are not human beings and how they operate. And they will need to provide information about who and what is behind them. On data privacy, the EU's General Data Protection Regulation applies to any chatbot handling personal information of EU users, which means that user consent and proper data processing will remain crucial. Now, while the progress on the AI Act is a fundamental step, building an innovative ecosystem that allows Europe and people in Europe and people across the world who work in Europe to make the most of trustworthy AI while addressing the risk, That requires, of course, several other building blocks. And that's why the Commission launched, end of January this year, a specific innovation package to fuel the potential of AI startups and SMEs across Europe through access to computing power and high-quality data, knowledge sharing, public and private investment, and support to tackle the complexity of Europe's linguistic landscape. So central to that innovation package is privileged access to Europe's cutting-edge supercomputers. Over the past years, the EU has invested in supercomputers, 9 in total. 3 of these are among the 10 most powerful supercomputers globally, and the most powerful of those is the 5th most powerful supercomputer in the world. That number 1 is located in Finland, and other European supercomputers are located in Italy, Portugal, Spain, Germany, Luxembourg, Czechia, Slovenia, and Bulgaria, so across the Union. These supercomputers should form the basis for European AI factories, as we call them, which are to streamline training for large general-purpose AI models, which in turn should empower startups to explore the frontiers of AI with speed and agility. And these AI factories, as we call them, should serve as one-stop hubs for knowledge sharing, programming tools, and collaborative support for Europe's most promising AI startups, thereby helping to spark and accelerate transformative processes. And the EU's investment doesn't stop there. Through our research and innovation program, Horizon Europe, to which we have recently re-welcomed also the United Kingdom, which covers also Norway, among others, then also through its investment program, InvestEU, and other relevant EU funding programs, the Commission is mobilizing some 4 billion euro in public and private investment for generative AI to bolster funding for European startups and help them scale up effectively. Then there is the issue of data. AI needs high-quality data, and Europe's common data spaces play a central role in this regard. So we're accelerating initiatives to share high-quality data sets that serve as building blocks for innovative and unbiased AI solutions. At the Publications Office of the EU, we are driving the EU legal data space, and we are contributing to the EU public procurement data space, to give just some examples. But there are also data spaces in other fields, such as, for example, health. Further, the Commission seeks to promote specific use cases that are tailored to Europe's most vital industries, such as manufacturing, healthcare, biotechnologies, or chemicals. And another issue to be addressed is the EU's multilingual context with 24 official languages, ranging from English or Spanish, that are among the most spoken languages in the world, to far less spoken languages like Maltese or Irish. This means that we have to overcome the significant imbalances in coverage and quality that AI-based systems provide across languages, and that is why the EU has set up the Alliance for Language Technologies, European Digital Infrastructure Consortium, it's a mouthful, to help create the necessary infrastructure to build European large language models that honor our continent's rich heritage of languages and cultural diversity, and that help to make sure that everybody can be served and work in their own languages, which is really very important. We also want to make sure that AI has a direct positive impact on Europeans' living standards, and that is why, for example, the Cityverse, European Digital Infrastructure Consortium, aims to help shape sustainable, efficient, smart cities and communities. Now, to make sure that all these actions and investments happen in a joined-up approach, the newly established AI office within the European Commission is there to streamline policy development and implementation of the AI Act, and to coordinate also the EU's international outreach. because the EU seeks to share its vision for responsible AI with others, working with like-minded allies who uphold democratic principles, the rule of law, and respect for human rights, and prioritize ethical design and application. Finally, the European Commission has set out an approach on how to use and nurture AI responsibly within its own services. As the EU moves to implement the AI Act, we are committed to leading by example. And that brings me back to our work at the Publications Office. As I said, trustworthiness is our most valuable asset by far. If people do no longer trust us, we can just close the shop and go home. We have to be frontrunners in the ethical, trustworthy application of AI. That is a constant consideration for us in everything we do. Now, the coming period will present particular challenges in this regard. In less than 3 months, between 6 and 9 June, EU citizens will have the opportunity to directly elect their representatives to the European Parliament, the democratically elected assembly that plays a central role in the EU decision-making process. And the EU wants to make sure that these elections take place in a fair and transparent manner. We are committed to doing everything we can to avoid that AI would be misused to manipulate the elections to the European Parliament, while at the same time, and that is very important, safeguarding the freedom of expression, which is a fundamental right. That's why the European Commission has issued guidelines under the EU Digital Services Act to address the potential misuse of generative AI for creating misleading synthetic content. These guidelines demand that tech companies implement safeguards against political manipulation and disinformation. They put forward best practices and potential mitigating measures to avoid systemic risks to the integrity of democratic electoral processes. These include, among others, watermarking to clearly distinguish AI-generated content from genuine sources, reliable sourcing, that is prioritizing information from established, reputable sources, user warnings, highlighting potential inaccuracies in generative content, and collaboration with fact-checkers to identify and curb the spread of harmful content. So the human being, the critical thinking remains in the end crucial. The coming weeks and months will put these measures to the test. It's clear that with the rapid technological, societal, and geopolitical developments around us, ensuring ethical and trustworthy AI will require constant adaptation, agility, and resilience within a solid framework of values and principles. And honestly, these values and principles, they're 100 years old, they're not new. They are there for a very long time, and we should not forget about them. And of course, with the use of critical thinking to seize the opportunities for the common good and address risks. The EU is determined, really determined, to deliver on this challenge. So I look very much forward to our discussion, to hearing from you, to learning from you, to seeing your experiences. Thank you very much indeed for your attention.
We may have some questions in the audience. I don't believe we have any online just yet. We've had some amazing speakers already. Hilde's disappeared, but is there any questions from the audience for Hilde? We have a few minutes before our next speaker. No? I'll just double check we have nothing online. No.
Maybe I'll have one, Caroline.
Do you have a question?
Yes.
Awesome.
So thank you very much for the talk. What I would find interesting is, from your perspective, if you especially look, like at the topic of innovation, and look at the regulatory framework, which parts of it do you think are especially crucial for the, you know, like the spirit of innovation in Europe?
Thank you very much. You mean which parts of the regulatory framework or which parts of innovation?
No, which parts of the regulatory?
Of the regulatory framework, I would really say the principles for trustworthiness. As human beings and as innovators, we have shown that we can fly to the moon, right, and bring people back. We have shown that we can do incredible things with AI. We flew to the moon when AI was still in its children's shoes, so to say. But, and here I come back to your waitress, if we don't stick to the basic values and principles that have governed for centuries, for millennia, among human beings, what is right and what is wrong, and I think we generally all know what they are, then we will lead ourselves to our own destruction. So I would say the most important in this framework is to have the compass of ethics and trustworthiness in everything we do, and then we can let the human creativity, the human inventivity, the human brilliance of mind do whatever it wants. Thank you.